Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Good night, wherever you are on the planet. We hear Sean and Yigal talking about the self, the real one. Investigate the unreal self to discover the real self. You're welcome to ask questions, to share, to think loud together and find out. Because today we like to reflect and go into the meaning of the wholeness or the emptiness, the meaning or the meaningless. What is life? What is the purpose of life and the meaning of life? I will start, Sean, giving you a moment just to share whatever you feel, and then we'll dive into a moment of connection with the real self. And I will guide everyone to realize how useful when we talk about this subject and we want to see different layers of the thoughts. It's great first to connect to the moment and then allow the new thoughts, the deeper thoughts, I call it, to arise when we ask this question.
Brilliant. And exactly on that note, what is the meaning of life is something that I've been thinking about, I guess, as we all are for a long time. And what I've come to really understand is that that answer is not going to come from someone else or the world, but going inwards and from ourselves. And so, doing the meditation that we're to do and getting in tune is priming us to start to really look at those questions. So that's perfect. And I'm ready.
Great. So, what I guide people is to connect to themselves. Some people call it practice meditation. Some people use the word meditation itself. I prefer not to give it any meaning, so we are not limited to the past. So you just sit comfortably. You notice that the body is relaxed, and you close your eyes in order to look within yourself, the inner body, and just let the attention travel inwardly, up and down, in your pace. We are not looking for any particular point, just being familiar that you go inside the room, that you don't see anything, that you relax because you don't have to see anything. You just want to be familiar with the inner body, with yourself. It's not the definition when the mind label what is self. Whatever you experience right now, the change, the breath, whatever it is, this is the self. Without label, give a meaning, understanding. Remind yourself to condition the attention, which is mind, observing the inner body. What's the purpose of moving up and down? If anyone experiences agitation, thinking a lot, looping from the past to the future, it will support the mind to move slower and go through your body. Notice the differences, the change, It doesn't really matter if it's strong or weak, easy or difficult. All this duality, observe both. Within ourselves, we can observe. And if we have nothing to observe, we are still alive. In order to recognize that I am alive, I don't need reference point. I recognize, and I don't need to know what I recognize. Everything else has to have a reference point in order to be recognized. Just allow these muscles to wake up, and every time the mind is wander toward thinking, understanding, trying to achieve, direct, control, whatever the mind is conditioned in the past to do right now, just you get the opportunity to shift the attention to what is, as it is. This is the basic, simple practice. Attention on the change, constant change. We don't have to understand the change. Because once we are inside, there is a recognition of this is, yes, beyond name. Nobody can name it. Notice there is no shape. Only the mind tries to give a shape the inner body, but there is just a space, unlimited space. Be familiar with your inner body. We spend so much money and time and effort to know the world, the planet, but we forgot to be familiar with the inner sensation. What does it mean to be familiar with the inner sensation? Is to observe the change. It's not about liking or disliking what you experience, good or bad. No. Observe is the change itself. Once you connect to yourself, you see sometimes the mind naturally slow down. Sometimes it's the opposite. The mind starts to move faster. That's okay. You put the attention in the sensation. You notice any tension in the body, physically tension, just relax. It has to be effortless because you don't look for anything, you don't control anything, nothing to understand. It's our nature, being with what is, as it is, moment by moment. Get a glimpse living in the moment without needing the reference point of who I am, what happened, where we are going to. Allow yourself to dissolve. That I don't need any control of anything. If we do it every day, a few times a day as you wish, anytime you can, because this kind of practice, it's not limited to time, not limited to space. You can do it with suit, with pajama. You can do it in the morning, evening. You do it when you're sick or when you are happy. not only connect to the senses outside, to the objects, to the pleasure and pain. That's different connection to myself. Now I want to directly connect to this moment without any external bridge. Very good. And then you relax, you just open your eyes. It's like feeling taking a quick shower. Didn't have to do anything. So I want us to dive in to reflect upon the meaning of life. And I will offer to all of us, the one that watch or the one will watch later, to dive within, to use the word meaning and see what is meaning pointing to. It takes sometimes to observe, to watch, exactly like we did with the inner body. We don't look for answer. What can happen when I ask, what is the meaning of life? All the obvious one will pop very quickly because that's the condition. And sometimes I like to let all of them to come up and still observe until I start to see I don't have so much thought about what is the meaning of life. And then suddenly there is a gap. And then I call it a deeper thought will arise. But it's not about deep or shallow, it's different angle to see, it's like, it's the insight. Sometimes when we reflect, when we sit with ourselves, suddenly some people use the word, now I understand myself better. I know myself, but it's just the knowledge that we all live, we usually cover with information. And I will not touch. If you have a question about the difference between information and knowledge, I will touch on it later, or you write it down and I will respond to it, because it's very useful to see clearly the difference between information. It's things that come very quickly on the surface, all our conditioned habits, what we've been taught and read and accumulate. And knowledge will arise when there is not so much noise. If you should do this, don't do that, this is good, this is bad. Suddenly knowledge is, the body is always breathe, and etc. So the meaning of life, I will start with what I've been conditioned, or I'll give you, Sean, when you hear this, the meaning of life, go your early childhood and describe, if someone will come and say, who are you? What will pop very quickly within you?
My name, first of all, identifying with a name, Sean.
Correct. And I will say, or people will, what is your name? From what do you do for living? Who are you? It means as a society, please connect me to all your belonging, the objects. So then I know who you are, a man or a woman, a rich or poor, intelligent, stupid, etc. Now, nothing wrong with that. This is the way we communicate. But that's the meaning of life. This is the essence of the meaning of life. Because in the beginning, we ask what is the meaning of life, and then we will start to see from the most external, outside, and slowly we will go and take apart the layers to see what is the essence of the meaning of life. And what comes to you when you hear this?
What is the essence of the meaning of life? What comes to me is what I've been very interested in lately, which is a very unique and personal question that only an individual can answer, that doesn't come from outside conditioning. And as you said, only when we stop the noise and the information and tune inside do we get maybe hints of what our personal meaning is in life, or as you said last conversation, what our value is in life. And so what comes to mind right away is just a needing to connect to ourselves very deeply, and again, not to use surface or deep, but to pause the noise, maybe for a bit, just as to get clarity as to what we may already know as to the meaning of life. We have just forgotten or covered in a lot of noise and conditioning. And yeah, so what comes to mind? Heart comes to mind too, tuning into the heart and seeing what wisdom is there.
So let's do it together. And I can share, when I ask what is the essence of the meaning of life, I will start to investigate what is not. Because when I give an analogy that everyone can understand, in this case, when I say essence, it's like we have a pile of balls, white or black balls, and inside there is one white ball. Okay? So in this case, when I say what is the essence, is one that's different than the rest. I just bridge the language. It's not the meaning of essence, but still to point to you to see that if I look, what is the essence of the meaning of life? I want to see the one that never change, never appear or disappear. And if I will go and look for it directly, I will not find it because it's covered. You ask me why? To make it simple, because that's why I move what it is not. Because the inquiry into the self, when we use the energy, what I'm not, eventually who I am will shine through. Now, some mind will ask, how do you know? Ta 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 ta. I tend to remind myself not to turn the investigation and inquiry into the self as a path of philosophy, analyze, understanding. That's just my flavor. When I really want to do something in anything in your life, even if it's business, relationship, I want to find out what is not, then what is will appear in front of me. And how do I know that this is it? Because it will always be there. So I will give an example. Water, I can ask what is the meaning, the essence of the meaning of water. It's wet, okay? Because I can say also liquid, I can say cold, I can say hot. All of it is part of the water. But if the water is not cold, still it's wet. If the water is freezing, it's still wet, and etc. So just giving the analogy to bridge, what do I mean? And more than that, look what I'm pointing to. So none of us will get lost in the pointer itself. Inquiry into the self, the thoughts that we're sharing right now, which I call knowledge, pointing to us to see beyond knowledge itself. So finding the essence of life is to start to find out how come I am not the body. Find out how come I am not the sensation. I am not the thoughts. I am not the emotion. Okay? You just need to find out how come. I'm not going to give this answer because it's not important. The important is that you realize it over and over, direct experience. How come you are not the object? How come you are not your parents? How come you are not your country? Now, some people get confused. When I say I'm not the body, it doesn't mean that who I am is not one with the body. Because if I don't close it like this, it appears like I make separation from I and the body. No, I just pointing that in order for me to claim I am the body, I'm using a thought. And when I investigate, the thought investigate the thought that's claiming what we are not. And this is just a reference point to slowly to investigate what is the essence of life, because when I say what I am not, when I start to realize that all what I claim, I used to be that, it comes and goes. So when I am my wife and then she decides to leave me, am I disappear? It's a question mark. You have to find for yourself. When I am my parents, when they leave the body, what happened to me? Am I alive? That's what I mean. Everything that I project, I identified as me, comes and goes. So I don't have to find out who am I. When each of us will take their time and investigate, have the energy to stay what I am not, investigate and realize who we are will shine through. Who we are will arise because it's always there. So all this process of self-inquiry is to discover what we forgot, which is already here. Now, some of you that cannot follow the words, it's okay. I'm just planting the seed. You don't have to understand, because I don't understand what I hear also. I do have the direct experience enough times to see where the words is pointing to. And that's the beauty of the journey, moment by moment, not to look for something, instead remove what is not. So I don't think I will share what is the meaning or the essence of the meaning of life. If you will hear this tape over and over, you will see that I'm already pointing in the question, there is the answer, or there is the essence of the meaning of life.
Beautiful. I really appreciated that. And where my mind went to as you were finishing was, when we do, when we can go inside and find perhaps who we are based on who we are not, and when we really, as you said, shine through, assuming we've, and it's a lifelong journey, I'm assuming, but assuming we've touched a place inside of us that feels true, that is unchanging. My curiosity leads to, then what happens when we can touch that place? Is it, and the word that keeps coming into mind is service. So I feel as we gain that clarity and we reach those depths, that home inside of us, what then is, I guess where my mind is going to is meaning. And when we touch that place, is it in service to the world? What then becomes meaningful? Because I see you having explored these topics very deeply yourself. And it seems you've had, I hesitate to use the calling, but I find it's an interesting word, purpose, calling, vocation, to now share that truth with others. And I'm curious about that, if that was,
It,
yeah.
first of all, my experience that the truth being shared through me. And I know that some people heard the concept, but they are skeptic. They have a doubts about that. It doesn't really matter. That's why when I start the journey of self-inquiry, the mind that I carry within myself used to ask this kind of question, and the people that reflect back to me remind me, don't worry about that. Because once you realize moment by moment who one is, then you will experience all these answers, calling, purpose, essence. That's fine. It's right now, it's not our we don't really need to know. And still I see that I can point to you back as a question and you will answer and you find out for yourself. Just let's assume we put a lot of objects in your room, very dense, almost no space to walk around. Okay? Then I tell you, your job now is to get inside your room and everything that has beginning and end or change, you take it out of the room. What will happen?
Be a clear room.
And then what is clear room in your experience?
In my experience, that's clarity. The word truth comes up in unchanging. You finally get to the essence.
So basically you discover what was there by by the objects. Now, if you go physically, we overlook the points. It's mentally, okay? Because mentally, when I go inside the room with a lot of objects, I project that there is no space. Meaning, I'm saying the space is gone. We need to bring more space because we don't have enough space. But that's not the reality. We just cover the space with objects. Now, inquiring to the self, it's internally on the mind level. Yes, I want to take out all the thought that there have beginning and end, constant change. Now, to be accurate and precise, we don't take the thought out or stopping the thoughts. We just waking up to realize as a little boy, I've been conditioned to sustain the thoughts, to sustain the meaning, the attachment. That's how the thoughts keep sprouts, by putting the attention on the thoughts. But the moment I woke up, someone was planting the seed within my mind and give a concept. Instead of you focus on elaborate meaning, understanding, feeding the energy of thinking, put the attention on your body, put the attention on the breath. And the results that the mind starts to slow down because no one else feeding this thinking except myself. Especially when people share something around me and I don't agree with them and I want to fight with them. I want to prove them that they're wrong and I'm right. That's called a form of reaction. The moment there is alertness within myself and I wake up, that's called waking up at that moment and say, wait, why should I argue with them and sustain the thinking? Shift the attention to the body because the body is present with what is. Okay? So if anyone experience tension, frustration, anxiety, compulsive thinking, negative, no need to fight with the thoughts. No need any technique to stop the thoughts. Just shifting the attention. Shifting the attention to the body. You can shift the attention to the senses. You can shift the attention to the breath. Depends what is the status or the status or the mind condition at that moment. If he's in peace, projecting, reacting, depends. Different modes the mind is going every single moment.
And Yigal, just to almost further, there's something in there I think is really helpful, especially for the listeners who are on their own path of exploration. And it's when we do live day to day and we're in and where we have a thought that comes up. What I'm curious about is knowing the difference between a thought that's been conditioned and then reaching that place of clarity. And let's see if I can word that in a different way. You say when you take every thought out of the mind, you can get to essence. When you take everything out, I know it's not actually taking out, but you take out the thoughts that are changing until you get to something that is unchanging. And just knowing the difference between reaching that place and then the conditioning and further thoughts
So
and just
first,
knowing
first of all, our job is to inquire the thinking, one step at a time, not to get lost in the process in order to get nowhere.
Result.
We are not going to get anywhere once we remove what is not. What it is remain here. Second thing, all thoughts is conditioned.
Okay.
Some thoughts are useful. Some thoughts are useless. Now, each of us can see functioning, taking care of the body, the business, the family. It's no problem. It's just the functioning thoughts. But we have more challenge with the imagination thoughts, the worried thought, the doubts, the success, the failure, all the dogma and the personality. Because many times people ask me, can I live without personality? Depends how we describe what is personality, and I will see I can live with personality that does not attach to what I'm not. Okay? Because there is always personality, moment by moment, constant change. And I cannot point, this is me. Because in the beginning of this conversation, the person that speak, it's completely different than the person he is now. Unless I go back and I keep carrying, I am a teacher, I am smart, I know, I'm beautiful. If I keep sustaining what I call the imaginary personality, then I see that I'm covering what is. So that's the beauty of the first steps, is coming back to the body, which coming back to the present moment, to reality, to the facts, because this is supporting the mind less and less imagine. Look, all our problem in life was, is, will, it's all about imagination. We never discover problem right now. Because even if there is a problem in the universe, look what people will say, it will get worse.
Yeah, future.
Yes, they have to reference point to the future. Oh, the weather is terrible. Okay, now it's hot. because it's very hot is terrible? No, it will lead to future. I will not be success. What is the problem right now in being with what I am right now? Success or failure, who cares? But if I want to be success, according to the concept of society, I have to go to the future, comparing with the past. And we talk about it last week about how the value it's comparing to what I have or I don't have. How can I give value for being alive? How can I compare a moment ago to this moment, to next moment? Just being alive. Is it any different when I have $1 million, so I'm extremely alive? When I have any money, I'm dead, alive? What does it mean? I understand when people share, but you know, when I have $1 million in the bank, I'm more exciting. Okay, that's the flavor. If you're not excited, you're alive or not? And that's why it's good to go back and see what is really useful in life. If we ask what is the meaning of life, we can also use what is really useful to life. To be or to become. Now, I don't want to confuse people because no one really become anything ever, just in our imaginations. Then we see I can live this moment fully because otherwise I miss. I miss to be fully alive in this moment. And I want to be happy more than I want to recognize I'm alive. And in order for me to be happy, I want particular experience that I remember from the past that create a lot of pleasure within me. Then I have this in my body excitement and energy, and I'm using the drug, specific experience to feel alive, to feel happy, to feel on the top of the mountain. But it's just a matter of a moment later, I have to go down.
Yes, it is interesting. I can look at where in my life I've been happy and where in my life I felt most alive. And the happiness usually depends on something. Whereas the times where I felt most alive, which really are the most ecstatic, are the most just the joy of being alive, the gift. And those are times all over the place that depended on nothing besides my full awareness. If that was a sunset or being at your meditation retreat and being with people, it wasn't dependent on anything, just simply my being and my presence.
Yes. And we put it is not this is better to this one. We're just seeing that how much energy we have to spend to put in order to sustain being on high, happy, exciting, and how much energy we need to invest in being alive. And each of us will make the math and have the urge and the desire on what to put our attention. And I understand that society, the system that society is working with, the method that we live our life is all about becoming. It's a fact. And we don't want to change it because some people enjoy it, some people like it, some people believe the experience, that's their karma. But each of us has to find out really, what do I want?
Yeah.
What is the value for me in life? What is the meaning of life for me? Because if I will go after someone that like to eat spicy food and I cannot stand eating spicy food, I will do it just because everyone, and I will suffer like most of us.
Yes.
Not necessarily doing what they really, really, really wants to connect to do.
And I find that's really interesting. I think my question before about the clarification of a conditioned response to that question, you know, what would I really want to do? Or you could use the word purpose. I'm interested in karma. Maybe we can touch on that. But it does, that answer of what do I really, really want, again, isn't going to be found in the external world. It's going to be found from within and from a place of us being and being in ourselves. And just again, that clarity between knowing that voice from within us telling us what we want versus a conditioned definition of what you want is, or success, or what meaning is from society, maybe parents, maybe your friends. And so, because a lot of times, with me personally, I'll have a thought or a feeling that points to something that I want. But when I pursue it, I then realize that it was actually something that my parents wanted of me or my friends expected of me. And sometimes I think we attach or we let the wrong guidance guide us through life instead of finding, I like to use the word, our that inner compass that just knows more so what we want. And so the clarity between, I guess if I was to turn that into a question, just how to find that clarity between our own inner guidance and the guidance that the world is telling us we need to follow.
So when you hear this question, who would you be without to find? Just stay with, who would you be without looking?
Yeah.
What did you find?
Yeah.
Isn't it? Whatever you need to find, you will find. But when you look for something, guess what happened?
You haven't found it.
You're always in the future.
Yeah.
Can you find the future ever?
No. You're
And
already there.
yes, and I want just to touch karma, just to see the use of understanding the way I experience karma. And whatever happened, happened. Whatever is happening, happening. Whatever will happen, will happen. Now, when I can connect, not mentally, when I present with my body and I see that it's so accurate, whatever happened, happened. I don't remember even. Whatever is happening is obvious. Whatever will happen, I don't know because it's not happening yet. So when I live my karma, I understand that there is only one time in life. This moment. Now, if I want to avoid mistakes, I'm not living in the moment. So when people look for the purpose of life, that they don't want to waste their life, they don't want to create a bad karma, it's already done by believing that I need to find Who
Mm.
would they be without finding anything?
Yeah.
I experience connecting to what is. And of course, there is a voice between pizza to salad sometimes, but it's constant change. Sometimes you
Yeah.
think you need to be there. Sometimes you feel I don't want to be there. And that's what I tell people. They look for specific technique, a magic, a skill to connect to the inner voice that's showing us the path for liberation, for being success, being happy, being rich, name it. And I tell them, don't bother. Listen to the voice that arises within you right now, any voice. If it leads you to mistakes, okay, the belief of mistakes, do you learn from these mistakes? Big
Mm.
time. When you choose to do something and build something, and in the end, it's showing you that you have nothing, did you learn something from that? So once we start to realize directly that anything we do in life, it's perfect because
Mm.
it's happened. Sometimes I get questions from people, so I can go and kill people
Mm.
because it's perfect. And can you kill a person? Because if you can kill a person with your thinking, of course you can do that. You will do it anyway. But
Mm.
if I need to look within myself and think, oh, someone will pay me $1 billion now
Mm.
just to kill another person in the country that they allowed me to kill him, I will never be in jail. From society, I will be the hero.
Mm.
Would I kill the person? No. Why
Mm.
not? It is not. How can I explain that unless you directly experience? Same
Right.
with food, same with anything. That's something
Mm.
within us. The voice that we don't listen, no, it is not. It is not. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We just so much focus on the results of anything we do in life. If it's a spiritual path, if it's a business path, any path, we are conditioned. What do I get from it?
Mm.
Being happy.
Interesting. Mm.
So whatever
Mm.
I will get, I will be happy. It's up to us to directly realize what is to be happy beyond the concept of
Mm.
being happy.
Beautiful. And that leads me to a point that I think we put on the video about wholeness, and whatever happens, happens. And if we label it good or bad, to use common vernacular, common language, to accept one but deny the other. If something bad happens, again using common language, you reject it. But when something good happens, it's going your way. But then we get to this place of wholeness where we can accept whatever happens, happens. Good, bad, they both, as you say, have their benefits. We can learn from anything that doesn't go our way, and we can be grateful for the things. We can be grateful for both. And so coming into this state of wholeness where we can find the usefulness of anything that happens to us, common language, good or bad, we can see it as part of the whole. And I think that's true for the feelings that arise in us too. Again, using the language, good feelings, bad feelings, they're still all part of the whole and therefore have a place. and to reject one is to reject part of ourselves. I'm just interested in
Yes,
wholeness.
basically, you lead us to summarize the conversation today with the wholeness. Because I will leave it to the people. The way we condition is in duality. We condition in order to see light, to recognize dark. We condition in order to see good, we need to see bad, experience bad. So we live in a duality life as a conditioned mind. When the mind starts to wake up and inquiry into these conditions, the mind starts to recognize the way we see wholeness, as you describe it very nicely, it's two parts. Can we see wholeness without the two parts? When you take the line in the yin and yang, the line, you take it out. You take the circle, you take the black, you take everything out from the whole. Is the all disappear?
Interesting.
So it depends where you put the attention. If you put the attention of half, you experience half. That's the delusion mind. Then the awakening mind, a stage of awakening mind, see the half of good and the half of bad. And the enlightenment mind see only the wholeness. Doesn't give so much significance to the change. He is not ignoring the change, but he see what does it matter. Once you're up, once you're down, once you feel good or you feel bad, is who you are as a wholeness affected by the change? It's up to us to find out. And that summarizes the meeting today, which is very useful. If you go back to different points that being said today, through me, through you, it will be perfectly all right. So I want to appreciate all of you are watching us or watching us later. I will be happy to hear your comments, your suggestion, your way you see this subject. You can write down or send me in the message, in the private message. We will be here in the same times next week. I see that Sean disappeared, so I will say thank you, Sean, and we will be in touch. All the very best. Have a lovely week.